Hey everybody, ronarray here, and today I want to showcase my Smite build for 3.27. Smite was a very strong and popular in 3.26, and was completely untouched in 3.27 patch notes. So the only downside right now is that huge DPS bonus from Mercs will be gone completely. But with updated setup, we will be able to reach a huge DPS in the endgame again, having more than 120 millions even without super expensive jewelry. All of that while still being very tanky and keeping the rest of the bonuses. So in this video, I wanted to showcase how Smite build changed now without Mercs, and what you will need to do to get both tankiness and damage in 3.27. Let's go! For a very detailed early leveling guidance, you can check my previous video from 3.26 that I'm going to leave in the description, or the written guide. Feel free to subscribe as well if you're enjoying such detailed approach. Now, I'm still going to cover some basics before jumping to endgame setup. Use the timestamp if you're interested in the endgame damage fix without Mercs instead. So, first off, Smite consists of a melee strike and lightning area damage. You can't hit one target twice with both melee strike and lightning bolt. However, if you have a source of strike skills hit an additional target, then the enemy can be hit by both melee damage from the additional strike target and the damage of the lightning bolt that comes from original hit. That interaction practically doubles Smite damage. It's very easy to tell when you're hitting twice. If you position yourself right in the boss fight, you will see two lightning beams striking the target. Try to hit with your Smite a little to the side from the boss and don't come too close to make sure that you're hitting twice. Using hitting twice interaction is very important because it's going to double your damage in almost all single target situations. So make sure that you position yourself right. Now let's talk about the leveling. First off, for leveling you have a few different options. You can level up with Thunder, you can level up with Peacock if you like it. However, I don't really like to swap too often, and I believe that Smite right now is pretty alright to just level with Smite from level 1. That way you don't need to repick your skill and can get used to it much earlier. So if you hate swapping it, Smite is perfect option for it. You can play it starting from level 1. To get a free Smite at the start, you will need to create a Templar, kill Hillock, choose Smite gem as a reward, drop everything to the stash, and just create the Slayer right after. So now let's talk about how to progress faster through the campaign. In the campaign, it's pretty important to pick particular weapons. So I usually recommend to play with two-handed weapon in the campaign until you will be able to swap to dual wield later, and in the endgame we're going to play with a shield. So picking and constantly changing your weapon is playing a pretty big role. Search for any two-handed weapon with high DPS. It could be any kind of DPS, physical or elemental. Just make sure that your item will have it. Talking about dual wield itself, I usually recommend to swap into dual wield around level 75 and early maps, so you will finish your whole campaign just with two-handed sword, and you will be able to swap to dual wield around level 75 in the setup. You will just change some passives right here, and you will go for dual wield nodes here, so Blade Barrier, Ambidextrity, going for Twin Terrors, and additional things like that to boost your critical and your damage in general. It's also pretty important to remember that during your whole campaign you should have attack mastery with non-val strike skills target one additional nearby enemy, which is absolutely mandatory. Also don't forget about getting life and mana leech together with 45 each. First you're getting from just that mastery, and after that you're going to get it from your support or body armor. So, talking about survivability, from level 75 and on, you will need to invest to make sure that you're surviving better. For that, you will need to add some particular mechanics between level 75 and level 90 with the endgame maps. First off, you're getting block. So having 65% of attack block chance and 63% of spell block chance with the dual wielding setup is definitely worth it, because it's going to make your progression in the red maps significantly easier. So to get that, I recommend to get like Swagger here together with Feline Swiftness, which is providing decent amount of block, some block from Brutal Blade, and additional nodes such as Weapon Artistry in your tree. Just make sure that both your blocks at least higher than 50. And don't forget that you will need to allocate Versatile Combatant, which is going to provide you all spell blocks that you currently have in the build. So on top of it, it's also pretty important to reach spell suppression around level 90 when you're reaching like red maps. So for that, make sure you have Invitorate and you roll in spell suppression everywhere on your item. So for example, like on the body armor. If you still don't have enough suppression, you can always just invest a little more for end range, for example, 2 points right here, or for a quick step, 2 points right here. Talking about Bloodline Ascendancies, I believe the best thing for such a Smite build would be the Wild Bear. It can give you plus 20 to maximum rage, together with pretty nice source of adrenaline. I believe right now, since we are playing just Admiral's Arrogance gloves, it could provide a pretty decent uptime for both rage and adrenaline itself. It will definitely require tasting in the game. However, I would definitely consider the Wild Bear as an option. And to make sure that you're adding that Wild Bear itself, I would probably recommend to drop Headsman, because just getting Culling Strike is not that hard currently, and there's a lot of way to do that. It still will require a decent tasting, but if you want to add Bloodline Ascendancies and utilize them, I think that would be the best option at the moment. Now let's talk about endgame version of the build. That's pretty much the version that you will need to try and slowly follow after you finished with level 90 to 95 version with Dual Wield. That version using the shield with Dawnbreaker Colossal Tower shield at the moment, and using Doryani's prototype on the character itself. That combination can provide a very decent amount of tankiness, so as you can see we have a very nice amount of Cold, Lightning and Fire max hit, and also can give you enough damage very similar to what we had before. So with that setup you can reach like 120 millions of damage just without crazy items. So for example, my amulet is not really amazing in that setup. Instead of just having crazy good heist base with 150 and higher multiplier, I'm just running the basic variation that I've been using in the similar Smite setup in 3.25. So for all of that, you will need to follow a few different recommendations. First off, you will need to get Dawnbreaker for yourself, perfectly with 20% of Cold, Lightning and Physical taken as Fire. But even if it's going to be a little lower, that's absolutely alright. On top of it, you also will need to get Doryani's prototype. Doryani's prototype is going to give you armor applied to lightning damage taken from hits, and lightning resistance does not affect lightning damage taken. Nearby enemies have lightning resistance equal to yours. That way you can get like minus 160 or even higher minus resistances on yourself. With better items, especially if you will be able to pay more, I think you can get like minus 200, but in that setup I have only minus 167. We also will be able to utilize like Arn's Anguish, again for additional damage, together with Admiral Arrogance to stack Rage for the build and like plus level 4 melee skills. Running Relicash Impatience with Endurance charges is also recommended here. That version is pretty endgame, so like higher budget, but that's here just to showcase what kind of DPS you can reach with the build. So at what point it's a good idea to swap to Doryani's prototype overall? I think you can swap right after like level 95, when you will have absolutely necessary items, which are Doryani's prototype and Dawnbreaker at the moment. If on top of it you also will be able to get like Watcher's Eye with Cold and Lightning damage taken as Fire, it would be perfect, but if no, it's alright. The very important part here is getting Little Pride, which is going to provide you Tempered by War. 50% of Cold and Lightning damage taken as Fire damage. So Tempered by War from Little Pride, together with Dawnbreaker and Doryani prototype, is absolutely mandatory to run that version. You can see more information both in the written guide and in the PoE itself. And another important part to scale your damage is pretty much running amulets and ring with minus lightning resistances. That transition between those two versions could be not that smooth in some particular situations, so if you're attempting it, make sure that you have enough currency at the moment. Since I really think that we need to have a Fortify for better survivability, I have a Fortify as a support gem. If you don't really feel like it's necessary, you can drop it completely out and you will be absolutely fine without it. Consider that version a late game version, which is pretty much aspirational when you need to move toward that. I'm also going to provide a separate path of building which showcasing a cheap Doryani transition. It has only Dawnbreaker with basic Doryani without minus resistances jewelry at all, so just basic stuff, one kinda average Vendor's Gamble, and that's pretty much it. It's also using the basic Admiral Arrogance with only +2 level of all melee skills just to generate rage, so it should be absolutely alright to play that. You can use that one as an example. The only expensive item here is a weapon, and you can take any weapon that you can at the moment. It also has no Watcher's Eye at all, so only Light of Minion and Little Pride. Please use that version as a transition between Uber version and the starting mapping version with dual wield. So first off, you should start with a leveling path of building and 200 weapon. Progress with 200 weapon until you finish campaign. After that, go for dual wielding and play dual wielding. At least you will have just Dawnbreaker, Doryani, and your Little Pride with Tempered by War. So you will be able to just swap to it. And after it, you can slowly progress from cheap transition version to an expensive transition version, finishing the build. Another interesting topic is why we're not using block in the Uber version. So when we're looking at Uber version, block could be a very easy thing to pick, since we already have a shield, which we can just go for Tetsudo, reach deflection, and it will be pretty easy to stack it. However, there is a pretty nice downside from Dawnbreaker itself. -1% chance to block attack damage for every 200 fire damage taken from hits recently. And during the setup with Doryani, you're going to receive a lot of fire damage because lightning and cold and physical all will be taken as fire. That way, if you will receive multiple attacks, it will lead to your block falling off pretty fast. So in such situation, I don't really believe that investing further into the block when you're playing Dawnbreaker is worth it. I'm still going to supply a Dawnbreaker version with block too, if you want to do that. However, I currently believe that survivability is good enough and you can just play that without block at all. And the last thing that you will need to keep in mind when you're playing the build, even in the high budget variation, to generate endurance charges, you will need to use a combination of things. So first off, Disciple of Unyielding is absolutely mandatory. You can spend the passives for it, or you can get it on your amulet, but that will give you a chance to gain endurance charges on kill. We're going to use Relicash Impatient boots with number of endurance charges, together with Arn's Anguish belt. That way you're going to get like brutal charges from the belt generation. So in the mapping phase, just Disciple of Unyielding should be enough to make sure that you will always have the charges. But when you're fighting bosses to generate charges and make sure that you're dealing a lot of damage, you will need to use Enduring Cry every time when the boss fight starts. It should help you a lot and should make your damage significantly higher, so keep that part in mind. And another thing that could be a little too easy to miss. In the build, especially in the endgame part, we have Flash and Stone Gem Aura. That aura should always be sent to like a sand stance, because that way it's going to provide you additional survivability, which build definitely requires. Everything else should be pretty obvious, you can check like a guide for it, or also ask me on the stream. Thank you very much for watching and hope you will have fun in the new league. See you next time and ronarray out.